Hey you guys, this is the Class Wars footage for October 2015 that I have. I'm here in round 8, so I lost the footage for rounds 1 through 7, which I was really sad about. My computer just restarted on its own. Again, I mentioned this in my overview video that it just restarted and took away all my footage. I wasn't able to recover it at all, and so yeah, just really frustrating and annoying. Um, so I can try and recap the main fights um, that probably most people are looking at that could go either way. I lost to Shady, which was very, very surprising. At the same time, he did a very nice job, got a good stun on me, and kept the lead. He was actually dealing a lot of damage with his Dark Pet, which I was surprised. You know, even though I don't have any Dark Dimensions, I do have really good Dark Crystals, so it was a little bit surprising to see how well he was doing there. But he had a really great run the whole night, so he did a great job. He has no Merge Sylph, he has no, whatever. He's doing a really nice job. And who else? I beat Solara, I beat Asher. Solara definitely did not have any sort of dimensions or whatever, so he didn't perform that well that night. Asher looking a little bit better, but still losing out to the Fire Sylph. I don't think he was expecting that, and I don't think anybody was really expecting him to bring fire, actually. So that was useful. Here, getting a big hit on Cava, and that does it. I was surprised that Cava didn't bring her Electro Pet. And anybody else? Asher, Solara, Shay. Oh, and I also lost to Lala. Lala, I thought I had her, and I had a really good stun, and I was dealing a lot of damage early. Kept her out of Sylph mode, but she just barely was able to survive a really big barrage of attacks. You know, again, mages love Guardian Runes and restores, and so maybe she recorded and be able to see that on her channel, but I did lose. I ended up deflecting back at myself and dying. And I think that's the majority. There were some buys. I think 1 or 2 of my fights ended up against Whitley. So yeah, I think at least 3 or 4 of these fights I didn't have an opponent. And then of course I took a loss to somebody while I was restarting, and I'm not totally sure because there were so many buys. I couldn't, by process of elimination, I couldn't figure out who it was supposed to be. I'm pretty sure it's somebody that I was supposed to be able to win against, which is sort of unfortunate. I was sort of hoping that it was like Ray or Chile. That I ended up getting during that time, but it didn't work out that way. So here, up against Ariel. She also has a wind pet. I was surprised how many Goddess Prosperities I saw that night. I was also a little bit surprised that Ariel went with this choice. I wasn't, Cava made sort of sense because she had Goddess Prosperity and she had another one as her troop, but in this case Ariel brings one of her dark pet as one of the troops, so I think it's sort of an odd choice as far as support goes. I think it's reasonable for people to try different stuff and get a feel for other setups. The only actually the biggest problem, regardless of what you bring as a troop or whatever, the biggest problem about bringing a wind pet for our Mage class wars is because Ray brings a wind pet every single time. So all the top players are trying to protect against Ray if they want any chance of winning, and so yeah. So it tends to, be a lot of players that have resistance against wind, and that's not great if you're trying to, come up with a surprise attack or something. Big Delphic, but it got blocked. So it was blocked for 600k or something like that. So obviously, even if it weren't blocked, or definitely if it had crit, would have taken her out. Nobody has fire resistance. That was abundantly clear to me. Look, plus 87% damage, so up there, and so that's very, very key to how much damage I was dealing. Next up against Ray 7, and yeah, this goes about as I expected. I might adjust my block a little bit. Ray has a little bit less block than I do, maybe a couple less block gems than I do, and she seems to dodge quite a bit, so still trying to figure out what's the best rate for that. Tried to save Panda a little bit here just because I felt like Ray was going to deal some early damage, and for me that was not a good thing. I was hoping to get a stun on her, but anyway, I was really concerned about these two Friggas. I was really surprised that Ray also had two Friggas. You know, I saw that Chile had two of them in prelims, and then Chile didn't end up bringing both of them. Anyway, it's a very, very confusing night for everything. The computer stuff and everybody just playing whatever which way. But Ray has two Friggas. I told Ray that Chile had two Friggas in BG the other day. And not really because I was telling Ray, oh yeah, you should get another Frigga. I was just saying that, oh, Chile has two. Isn't that crazy? And she didn't realize either, and I didn't realize until I looked back at the footage of prelims. So anyways, she goes and she makes a second Frigga. So this is going to be incredibly hard to deal with in the future. She has two support Friggas in the win main, and it's just, this is really, really bad news for everybody as far as competing against her. You know, on a daily basis, not that big of a deal. In BG, you know, I don't have to deal with these Frigga support troops. But when you start talking about class wars, and anytime there's that type of stuff, that's really big trouble. So she does a nice job. And here, back to back, the toughies. Now I get Chile, and this just confuses the hell out of me. You know, I was not that surprised to see Odin on the kid, but I was very surprised that he used Frigga as his main. I did think that he was going to go with Odin, but I guess he was assuming, you know, nobody's going to have water resistance or something, so he decides to use one of the Friggas as his main sylph, and then he has two Odins. One of them is a support troop, and then the other support troop is a Goddess of Prosperity. And I don't know, the whole thing does not make sense to me. When you have two Friggas, I think the obvious choice is to at least use one of them as a troop. So very confusing. Here I'm just trying to take out the Ranger, and I do. Use Dragon Blast before the troops are active. Try and use that AoE to get the troops, but not quite enough. But I am dealing quite a bit of damage to him. He has no no fire resistance other than the natural resistance that Frigga has. So plus 81% damage each of my hits. Here, this Dragon Blast, you can see the red circles on the troops. Takes out the Goddess Prosperity. Not quite enough to get the Odin. But here we go, the Delphic hits both targets. Boom. I ended up slowing it down just so we can see, look at that, 4.6 million on the troop and 1.44 million on Chile. Anyway, so just so crazy. You know, just no fire resistance. You know, he didn't have Odin in this case. Odin would have reduced some of the damage there. But yeah. So Fire Sylph served me well. And you know, Chile has the last laugh as far as the whole tournament goes. So even though I beat him, of course, it didn't really end up being super consequential. But he definitely was cursing my existence by the end of this, by the end of that fight. Yeah, Chile's and good buddies, and he's a very helpful guy with things to the blog and whatever, and he always likes to compete with me. Anyway, it's a very funny fight. I don't think anything like that's ever gonna happen again. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed using the fire pet. It's very fun. I ended up switching back to dark here for the BR. You know, things were looking very close toward the end, and I wasn't sure if, you know, I was going to end up tying somebody for number of wins, and I ended up tying with Asher for record, and so it was very important that I boost my BR back up to what it should be, so make sure that my total BR is enough to place where I should be. So here, Mr. Trin also has an Odin. I had no idea, but Mr. Trin just doesn't have the BR to really compete with an Odin yet. I mean, carrying an Odin and making it make a huge difference. There, that Delphic is so OP against a group. It's just like a 100% heal if there are multiple targets, so very difficult to deal with. Still in a single PvP situation, that Delphig is really pretty so-so. And there's the Devour Soul. Victory. I'm not sure if this is Mr. Trent's first time in Warlord's Hall, but I think it might be the first time. Maybe I faced him somewhere else. So he's not an unfamiliar face, but he might be unfamiliar to Warlord's Hall. And so for the last fight, I ended up fighting Thing One, and I was glad to see that she showed up. It's been a while since she's been in Warlord's Hall, so it's good for her to be competing in it. And I don't think Thing has ever been, you know, a consistent player through Warlord's Hall. She's not like Ray and, you know, Gruntar and all those people who have been in Warlord's Hall for a really long time, but she has been up there before, and so it's nice to see her more active again and playing pretty competitively. She's from Karam too, and so that's a thoroughly old server as far as Wartune goes, so she's been playing the game a long time. She's there with a very standard setup. Not a bad idea to just go with what she's comfortable with for her first time in Warlord's Hall for a long while. And I think, you know, she's probably been a dominant player in Warriors Hall for a long while, or at least one of the top players there. And I think when you're at a BR advantage, it's probably best to just go with the setup that you're comfortable with. That's how I won Class Wars finals. I had a huge BR and res advantage, and I just went with a standard setup, dark pet and 2 wind pets. It was very straightforward, you know, and so when you're at an advantage, I think that's the best way to go. So there, Chile and Ray tied with 14 wins. Shay and Lala tied with 12 wins. Chile eked out Ray by BR, and actually probably by a lot with all those Odins and whatever, that makes sense. And then you know, Shay ended up having more BR than Lala for 3rd place, probably because Lala didn't have the kid on. I'm very surprised that Lala didn't put the kid back on by the last round. Maybe she had some very tight fights at the end and wasn't able to do that, but just lost out there. And so Robin on my server ended up getting 3rd place, ended up getting the thieves and everything, and that's her first top 3 showing. You know, Robin is obviously a casher, is a top player, but she's does not spend money or play quite like the rest of the archer crowd sometimes does, and so I was super proud of her for getting 3rd and doing as well as she did. She said she got really lucky, but I think people should just take the win, so I wanted to send her some flowers. Big congrats to her. You know, I've been at the top of my server for Class Wars for so long that it's really about time that somebody else takes the win, and so I'm glad to see a friend and a guildie do that. So as far as the final standings go, again, wrapping things up, I mentioned Chile and Ray tied and for wins. So Chile must have beaten Ray and I beat Chile, so that's how that worked out. Chile said that something happened there that he thought that he lost to Ray, and so something happened there. I'm not totally sure what. They don't record, so I don't know. And then Shay and Lala, and then Shay getting ahead of Lala because of Lala's lack of kid, and then I was ahead of Asher and BR, which is a good thing that I put my dark pet on at the end, because that did boost my BR ahead of Asher's, and we both had 11 wins, so that's very good. And then Solara and everybody else wrapping things up. And then as far as the winners go, we have Chile, and then Cypress getting his 6th Class Wars win out of the Knights, and Lambeau, I think, had a very dominant time in out of the Archers. Robin was saying that he went undefeated. I'm not totally sure about the Knights, but Cypress is obviously having a very good run there, so very nice job to all of them, and a big congratulations. Just showing my pets there, the little difference between the Fire and Heck and Nutella. So that was a very fun time. Makes me feel really good about waiting to maybe do Tyr or Thor out of going for the Fire and Electro pets instead of going for the Dark and Light or Wind and Water merge sylphs. So just still waiting things out and gonna see how it goes. So thanks for watching, you guys. Take care and have a very good day.